Nottingham Forest set the price for their two key assets, Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo. Welcome to your Forest transfer news. Good morning, good evening, or good night. Hope you guys are doing well. And finally, we're not talking PSR, even though I'm sure it will work its way into the conversation. No, we are talking transfer news. We've got the latest on the two key players for Nottingham Forest. We got a player who's going to be back fit, apparently, for Crystal Palace. And Forest will be renewing a contract on a defender. If you're enjoying the content, please don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new, because 40% of you watching this are not subscribed, and it's completely free to do. So hit that button down there somewhere right now and make sure you're subscribed. And there's still some tickets left for the signed, framed Taiwo Awoniyi home shirt from Football Prizes. The link's in the comments as well. Okay, let's get into this and let's kick it off with Morgan Gibbs-White and Murillo, as Forest set the price at 50 million plus for either player. Now, Forest have said they will not accept any lowball figures on either player. They are under no pressure to sell. As we told you guys, I think yesterday's video, the day before, that Forest won't necessarily sell either player at all, because there is a road to get past the P word, PSR, without having to sell either of these two assets. And the clubs that have been linked to Morgan Gibbs-White are Spurs and West Ham. Now, do I really see him going to Spurs? I don't know, it's a tough one, because technically he would be playing in the Maddison role there. And Maddison has had a fairly decent season apart from his injuries. And would Morgan Gibbs-White really be going in to play second fiddle at Spurs? He can, as we know, potentially play out on either wing, either the right-hand wing, the left-hand wing. He's played the false nine for us. He's played up front at his time at Sheffield. So he can get around the pitch. And maybe a team like Spurs, with the high line that they play, may suit some of his more attacking sidingness. I'm making up some words today, aren't I? But realistically, I don't see him going to Spurs. I don't see the fit. Now, in terms of West Ham, I think that will depend whether or not they sell Paqueta. If he goes, he was linked with Man City. I think he's got a few alleged charges against him for, I can't remember what they were, gambling or something. So maybe that could be a link into West Ham. But at the moment, I think Forest are right in what they're saying and right in what's being reported. We will not move on Murillo or Morgan Gibbs-White unless we have to. And it's exactly what we told you the other day. Now, in terms of Murillo, Forest don't see him as a £50 million player. They see his potential rising to somewhere in and around 70 to 75 million pounds. And again, I would tend to agree with that. The age he's at, 21 years old, already the performances he's shown this season in the Premier League. What's he going to be like when he's 23, 24, 25? A defender doesn't really get into their prime until at least their early mid-20s. So he is only going to go from strength to strength. But this is the right stance from Forest. Now, with Mangala potentially going, as we mentioned yesterday, there's 15 million there up for grabs. Forest then still need to find another 15 million. They could do that with the 4 million from Joe Worrell, as we said, if Besiktas want to complete that deal. Apparently, Worrell doesn't want to come back to Nottingham. He's more than happy out there, and I don't even think he's getting game time. Maybe he's just looking for some new hair. But that's the stance currently on those players. What do you guys think? Do you think either will go? Now, in terms of what I think the players want, it's just something inside me when it comes to Morgan Gibbs-White that I think he thinks he's not... I choose my words carefully here, but I don't mean them as they come out. I think he thinks he's bigger than Forest in terms of he should be playing at a European level. I think he thinks he's talented enough to do that. And some would argue he definitely is. In fact, I'd probably be one of those. But is he willing to wait under the project that is Nottingham Forest? If Forest stay up this year, I do genuinely see us putting together a decent squad. A squad that will be nowhere near relegation next season, subject to the P word. and he's just got to be patient, as he will be one of the key factors there. But if Spurs or whoever wants to come with 50 million, is that enough profit for Nottingham Forest? Well, we all know the likes of Sky Sports and Talk Sport and all of those other media institutes keep going on about how Forest spent £42 million on Morgan Gibbs-White. And as we've told you month in, year in, week in, hour out, that's so far from the truth. Forest paid initially 25 million for Morgan Gibbs-White, and then there were add-ons that would have got it up to around 40 million pounds. However, one of the add-ons was Forest surviving last year, which I believe was a 5 million clause that we paid to Wolves. That brought it to 30 million. The other clauses weren't really achievable. You're talking things like Morgan Gibbs-White playing for England last year, Forest getting European spots last season. Things like that were in the contract. Those haven't been hit. So the overall net spend on Morgan Gibbs-White currently for Forest is somewhere in and around 30 to say 33 million pounds. So if they were to sell Morgan Gibbs-White for about 50, 55, whatever it may end up being, that would mean that Forest would make good profit on Morgan Gibbs-White. So you could see the potential and why Forest have decided to label him at 50 million plus. But get your thoughts in on those two players. If you had to get rid of one, who would it be? Morgan Gibbs-White or Murillo? Now, moving on to players that may be getting contract renewals. And the one we're hearing about is Aina. Remember him? One of the best players in the AFCON, made AFCON team of the tournament. And we just haven't seen him since the AFCON because he's been injured. But let's not forget how good he was pre-AFCON. He could quite comfortably come in and fill in at left back, with Nico Williams playing so well currently at right back. And by the way, great free kick from Nico Williams for Wales yesterday. Morgan Gibbs-White still on free kicks? This is starting to sound like a Morgan Gibbs-White bashing video. It really isn't. He still is one of my favourite players. But anyway, back to Aina. Aina's contract runs out at the end of the season, but there is an option held by the club to extend that contract further. And from what we're hearing, it's all looking positive towards extending that contract out. So I expect this one to be done. This one's worth doing in my opinion anyway, because if Aina were to leave, Tavares, who does have an option on him with Nottingham Forest, but it may not be taken up, then this is better than going out and buying ourselves another left back or another right back, because there's no fee involved in this one. It would just extend the contract, and for the P word, it would work out very well. The other player that Forest are considering is Willy Bolly, who himself is out of contract in the summer as well. And Forest are considering extending his contract. Excuse me. Now, with this one, I would be okay with it because I think Willy Bolly is a solid defender. In fact, he's probably a starter for me currently, but he is the wrong side of 30. But would he be a good backup? Or could he end up being the Felipe of this season, next season, getting loads of injuries, struggling to stay fit, struggling to get a run of games? But I do think it's a risk worth taking, and I would be all for this one. What do you guys think? Would you take Willy Bolly on or not? Let me know in the comments down below. Okay, so let's move on and give you some injury updates. Now, speaking of Aina, he's one that is going to be back in and training and should be available, or at the very least part of the squad come the Crystal Palace match. But the issue Forest have right now is up front, with Taiwo being out for at least a few more weeks, and we all saw Wood limping off in Forest's previous game against Luton. But the talk is that Wood will be fit for the Crystal Palace match. Yes, breathe a sigh of relief. Yes, take a moment to soak it in that I am glad, maybe you are glad, that Wood is back. Roll back the clock 12 months. What a strange world we live in right now. But this is good news. Look, have I been Wood's biggest fan since he signed? No. But I did say to you guys when Nuno took the reins that Wood would fit in nicely with a Nuno system. Started off well, then he got injured. It's the story of every Forest player. As soon as you get a player who comes into good form, they get injured. Nico Williams in good form now? I ain't gonna jinx it, but you know what I'm thinking. So Wood should be back for the Crystal Palace match, and I think that is extremely important because this is gonna be a game that Forest have to win, and yes, I'm saying must win. If Forest can get themselves at least a point out of this game, with Luton playing against Spurs away from home and then Arsenal, 1 point will be enough to lift Forest out of the bottom three. But that's for next week. But the good news right now is that Wood looks set to be able to return. He didn't go away on international duty with New Zealand, so has been recouping at Nottingham, and the talk is he's going to be fine. So that's your latest Forest news. I can't wait to read all your comments in the comments down below. So get them in. And also, I'll tell you what I do love doing as well is when you guys start debating amongst yourself and a little string or a thread of comments come up on one thing. So make sure you're looking at the other comments and getting your thoughts in on other people's thoughts as well. Make sure you go get your Taiwo tickets if you haven't already. Please don't forget, hit that like button. Subscribe to Forest Fan TV if you are new. And if you haven't seen it yet, go watch that Kieran Maguire interview. If you still care about PSR, then go check it out. Thank you so much for watching. Come on, you ready?